And we're sitting down again with kind of a different perspective on what we're seeing at NICC, because we have Laviva Mazhar, who, did I say that right?
Mazhar.
Mazhar, I'm sorry, I do this.
Fine.
That's fine. And we're talking a little, because you're with a principal with Luge Capital. So instead of looking at insurance as a business, we're going to talk about some of the ways you look at funding the business of insurance and the technology and companies within it. So thanks for sitting down with us, Laviva.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Luge Capital. Where did it start? How did you sort of come into this ecosystem, and where have you found opportunity?
Yeah, so we launched in 2018 with our first fund, investing in fintech startups across Canada and US. We actually just announced the first close of our second fund 2 days ago at $71 million. So that will help us continue investing in startups in the space. We're backed by several large insurance carriers. So Sun Life Financial, Industrial Alliance, Desjardins, and Beneva are all investors in the fund. So naturally, we end up spending a lot of time with their innovation teams, with their insurance teams, to just understand what their strategic priorities are, and also helping them connect with the insurtech ecosystem. We also work with a lot of other carriers as well. So long story short, we just found a lot of opportunities that were untapped in the insurtech space. And a big part of our portfolio today are insurtech startups. So, yeah. So
when you look at the startups that you funded and you see interest in, how do you go about sort of looking at the startup when you come across them and saying, you know, rating them, so to speak, of how you would go further? What is sort of the process from, say, initial introduction, evaluation to, yes, we want to go forward with you?
Absolutely. So I think it all starts with the team, because early stage companies, the team is one of the core things, right? They're the ones that will be building the company. They will be the ones that will be raising future capital, maybe eventually exiting the business. So the team is very, very important. The dynamic with them, do you think they're smart? Do you think they can actually execute? And I think specifically in insurance, a lot of the times deep connections in the industry or understanding of the industry is also important. So is there somebody in the team that actually, you know, understands the space well? Besides that, I think the idea itself, the market opportunity, is important, because if the market opportunity is not big enough, then it's hard for a venture investor to, you know, take a small ownership in a company, and then eventually that company raises more capital. So your ownership is not a lot, right, in venture. So if the company exits, and if it's not a big exit, then you don't make a lot of return from that. So we have to make sure that the bets we're making are in companies that have the potential to become massive outcomes.
Yeah, so the potential is, the long-term aspect of the business model is there's going to be some growth. It's going to scale up to a level that you feel there's going to be a reasonable expectation of the return you're looking for.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that you have to be able to continue raising a couple of rounds of capital as a startup, because you're investing so much in technology and the growth. So you also have to make sure that it's not just you that's funding. You have to make sure that others are also excited about it. Sometimes it's harder to get that conviction when the company is really early. So you need those kind of like early believers, but that's where also the team comes in, because if they can execute, then hopefully they can attract more capital in the future and help build that company to that massive outcome.
So as you look back on how long you've been doing this for, I think you said since 2018, what does that look like then in the kind of companies that you funded? Are you finding a trend where you're finding comfort and opportunity in the marketplace? And can you share some of the successes that Luge Capital has had?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, a big part of our portfolio are insurtech startups, but they're actually across the board. So we've funded companies that are, for example, tech-enabled distribution, creating maybe their own products. So one of our companies, Foxquilt, they offer small commercial insurance. They've built their own products, and they distribute them directly, but also through embedded channels and also through brokers. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities in that embedded distribution. I don't know if that has been a topic at NICC at all.
It hasn't, but let's talk about that, because embedded insurance is a very complex thing.
Yes.
Because you do a direct-to-consumer play, and depending on where it's embedded, you may be not compliant with regulatory frameworks, because there's 10 or 12 different ones across this country. And I am familiar with Foxquilt. I know a couple people there. Great company. Interesting how they built it out, and they're actually doing quite a robust marketing and networking in the broker channel. So let's thinking about them. What were some of the attributes of Foxquilt that drove you to invest into them?
I'd say, again, it started with the team having a deep understanding of the space. I keep going back to that because at the early stages, that's what you hold on to. We liked that they were going after a space that was relatively underserved from a digital experience perspective. So small commercial, as we know, a lot of P&C carriers have prioritized the personal lines and bringing the modern experience to that side first. Which is fine, those are massive markets, but we found that small commercial across, if you combine Canada and US as kind of like the total market opportunity that's relatively close by, that's a pretty big market too. And so we thought that they were going after a relatively underserved market, the team was strong, and the product offering and the back-end engine was very flexible. This whole idea of embedded distribution attracted us because I think that it leverages two things that are really important, which is customer intent and attention. So if you think of one of their partnerships where they're distributing insurance to say like a contractor marketplace or a handyman marketplace, you need that insurance and it's made available to you right in that flow. So I think that can become really powerful in terms of conversion. I agree though that we're pretty early in the embedded distribution, kind of like landscape. I think we'll see a lot of things evolve in that space over the next few years.
It's going to be very interesting because I think we'll have a bit of a reaction over time around the regulatory framework in it and how that fits, because right now a lot of insurance products have to be sold by a licensed entity.
Absolutely.
Whether you're going direct to consumer, embedding it, or through a different distribution channel, and Foxwell sort of plays in all those different areas. It'll be a fascinating thing to watch and see if we have other entrants into that marketplace. Now, you're also publishing some information too about the Canadian InsurTech landscape. Tell us a little bit about that report and what's in it.
Yeah, so this is the second edition of the Canadian InsurTech report, but we also added the future of insurance to that name this time because it originally started as kind of like a deep dive into understanding, okay, what are the different InsurTech startups doing in the Canadian market? But then we actually said, you know what, actually carriers are innovating too in their own ways. So let's pay attention to what they're doing. So, and then we said, well, what's the future of insurance look like? And so we started looking at different potential technology trends, potential risks when it comes to insurance and technology introducing risks as well. So it's really a deep dive report for anybody that's interested to know about different startups that are innovating, the different carriers that are innovating, how we view the future of insurance. It's kind of all there, and it's a 70-page deep dive report.
So how does someone access that report?
You just have to go to our website. It's luge.vc. In our news section of the website, there's a page where you can download the report.
Fantastic. So today is part of NICC 23. Today, let me phrase that properly. Hey, let's talk about, there's InsurTech North. Are you guys a part of this and what you're going to see with some of the wolf pack and the pitches and things going on today?
Absolutely. So we are a supporter of InsurTech North. We're going to be on a couple of speaking sessions where we have at least one portfolio company that's pitching at the Wolfpack pitch competition as well. And lastly, we're hosting the closing cocktail at Espacio Pico as well.
So who's the company? Give a pitch to someone you've been Emma. And what do they do?
So they create and distribute life insurance policies online.
Okay. Life insurance certainly has seemed to be the one that's had the easiest uptick when it comes to policies and the distribution model. It's a slightly different product that can be sold a little direct to consumer, and depending on the type of product, it can be a long-term or a short-term play in terms of what you're selling. It seems to be that there's a lot more opportunity in the life space in Canada than there is in other ones, but that's just sort of my oversight. I'm not sitting in the weeds like you guys are. But when you look at things, are you seeing, when you kind of look and you see what carriers are doing, you're talking to the people who are investing into your fund, do you think the Canadian marketplace is being served? Do you still think there's opportunity for areas that, hey, someone's got to come in and do this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can think of so many ways. So just maybe going back to your original point first about life insurance, I agree. I mean, I think that even when we looked at our data in the report, we saw that there were significantly higher number of P&C focused InsurTech startups compared to life and health. And the funding, venture funding, also went a lot more towards P&C startups compared to life and health. It's kind of, I think, a global trend actually. So it was kind of in line, but totally agree with you there. In terms of innovation opportunities, there's so much. I mean, we're seeing a lot in claims, for example, so the use of AI in adjusting claims faster, making workflow automation tools to make that claims process better. Fraud detection, we have a portfolio company called Owl, which helps with detecting fraud and disability insurance, for example. They're doing very, very well. So we were talking about this earlier, but I think the use of AI in different functions within the insurance value chain will gain a lot of momentum. The other one, I think, is that just emerging areas of risk and changing demographics, changing lifestyles. I think that it will bring about certain insurance products to be more interesting, smaller products like tenant insurance or pet insurance and cyber and so on. And also, I think evolving technologies will create new markets for new products.
So let me, just because you brought that up, and I live in this world a fair bit because I talk to lots of different entities in terms of this, and I also have my own controversial opinions.
Okay.
We won't get into those. This is about you. But when you talk to your funders, and there are other insurance companies who want to invest in this fund because they believe in different things, are they providing you with a lot of data of things that they've done that maybe haven't worked, so that you can avoid making mistakes with who you focus on? Are you getting is it a reciprocal sort of relationship with the funders?
Absolutely, because the thing is, as we both probably know, the insurance companies, they're massive entities. So any insurtech project or any partnership they want to establish, it takes a long time to establish that partnership, to pilot, to see the results. And a lot of the times they don't work out for various reasons. It could be because the solution wasn't up to par, or because internally there was not enough buy-in, or they had other strategic priorities and they just couldn't put in the right amount of effort and resources into it. So we absolutely get that feedback, and it also helps us understand what are the priorities of the carriers, because we talked about tech-enabled distributors, but a lot of startups are also enabling the incumbent. But if the incumbent is not interested, then that's an interesting data point to say, okay, maybe the sales cycle is going to be too long. Maybe it's not a gushing neck wound. So, maybe the startup may not be able to grow as fast as you need it to grow in venture. So those are absolutely data points that we take into account.
Laviva, thanks so much for sitting down. And anyone who can incorporate gushing neck wounds so casually in the conversation is definitely on my list to talk to again. So thanks so much. This has been a blast. Enjoy the rest of InsurTech North, and good luck to Emma in the pitch competition.
Thank you so much.
And looking forward to catching up with you in the future.
Awesome. It's been great chatting. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.